Welcome back, YouTube, to another episode here at WILDMAN Lifts. I'm your host, WILDMAN. Now on today's episode, I'm driving to work and I wanted to do the introduction to this video since I didn't get to do it last time because I was being rushed in my workout because I had places to be and people to see. Now on this episode today, and per the title of this video, I'm going to be talking about shoulder impingements. And believe it or not, the number one culprit for shoulder impingements is the barbell back squat. Now, how is this even possible? Doesn't the back squat work your legs? What does that have to do with your shoulders? Well, it has everything to do with your shoulders, because when you get under a heavy barbell and you get your hands into that barbell position, if you don't have that correct mobility and you don't work on a lot of shoulder mobility, then it's going to put your shoulders in an unnatural and unhealthy position. And then those tendons are going to rub against the bone and you're getting a lot of inflammation. And then over time, it's going to start hurting more and more. So if you have back squat as part of your rotation and you're getting shoulder impingements and you're not sure why, it's most likely that. Now, in order to combat this, the straight answer, which a lot of people are not going to like, is you got to do shoulder mobility. Training your shoulders to get underneath that bar and making it so that it's in a healthy and advantageous position will not only help your back squat, but it'll keep your shoulders from hurting. Now, there are some people out there that were born differently and have different skeletal structures or joint problems that don't allow them to get into that good, healthy position underneath the barbell. And no matter how much they train mobility and flexibility, they're just never going to get into that position. So that's not really a good, feasible option for them. So what does that mean? Does that mean that they're just SOL and they're not going to be able to back squat ever again? Well, no, because fortunately, humans are smart and we've made more devices out there to back squat with. Now on this episode, I'm going to be talking specifically about the safety squat bar. And I'm going to demonstrate how I like to use it, but also there's a variety of ways to use it other than squatting. So let's pop into today's workout and let's see what I had going on. Now, like I said, for today's strength giant set, I'm going to be doing the back squat, but I've subbed out the barbell for what's called the safety squat bar, or SSB for short, if you like abbreviations. Now, really, this has handles that you're supposed to attach to the front of those, and then as you go down, you're supposed to lift up on it. But I like to put my hands out wide, because that makes the movement a lot more difficult. And I'll show you what that looks like. As the weight gets heavier, you'll see just how much harder that movement is. And as I go up in weight, I'm going to be flipping that rock over my shoulder, just to build explosiveness and to get my body primed for back squats. I'm also going to be doing some box squats as well. Not a lot of reps, just a few reps. Just to make sure that I'm getting warmed up, but also that I'm getting the muscles primed and ready for the heavy back squats. And that's going to be the strength giant set for the day. Now, if you ever back squatted before, you'll know how difficult it is to get into a comfy position underneath the bar. You oftentimes have to make your back super tight, and then your shoulders sometimes go in a very unhealthy and unnatural looking pattern in order to back squat the most amount of weight. Now, the only fix for that really, if you want to keep barbell back squatting, is to do a lot of shoulder mobility. But even then, you can do a lot of shoulder mobility and even still your shoulders might get impinged. I meet a lot of people that back squat as part of their general leg routine, and they'll tell me that they get a lot of shoulder impingements and they think it's from the bench and they think it's from overhead pressing, which could be true. And I usually take a look at their mechanics and I realize that it's actually their back squat that's giving them that shoulder impingement because it's in that unhealthy pattern. Now, for power lifters or strongman like myself, back squatting with a barbell is kind of a staple in every sport. So unfortunately, if they're experiencing that, I just tell them to do a lot of shoulder mobility, but also to do a lot of antagonistic work, such as pull-ups or rows or anything that's going to be working the opposite motion of a push. Because oftentimes their pecs and their front delts are pulling the shoulder out of the socket and rubbing that tendon against the bone. So if you do a lot of antagonistic work, like a lot of back work, then that back shoulder starts to get even with those front shoulders in strength, and then that joint sits nice and even in that socket. Now, if you're like that few I mentioned before, where you're just born with bad shoulder mechanics, it really isn't your fault, right? I mean, you're born that way, so you might as well use what you got. But let's just say that the way you're built or the way that your DNA is structured, you don't have shoulder mobility. And no matter how much shoulder mobility you do, you still are unable to get in that healthy position underneath a barbell to do back squats. Or if you were in a car accident or you're in a sports injury or something that caused your shoulders to come out of line and now you're unable to do the back squat anymore without impinging your shoulders, then this is a really good option for you, the safety squat bar, because you can use this bar for a variety of things. But in my opinion, it actually mimics more of a natural movement better than a barbell. To tell you the truth, I actually like doing the wide hands squat a lot more than a back squat under a barbell, because you can see that as this weight gets heavier, that when I descend and then come up out of the hole, I end up rounding my back a lot, which carries over a lot more into deadlifting and to stone lifting. So watch as I descend and come up. You'll see right there, all that weight shoots forward and I have to fight it back with my upper back. And that's why I really enjoy lifting with this bar. And it's one of my staples when I do train, to kind of take a break from doing back squat. And I train a lot of shoulder mobility. I have no problem getting underneath the barbell and doing the back squat. But I still like to do this one just as much as I like to do barbell lifting, because of how much it carries over into strongman, into stone lifting, and to deadlifts. This was my top set for the day, mainly because I haven't done this in a very long time. So this is the weight that I wanted to hit for one, just to kind of see how it feels. And to tell you the truth, it felt pretty good than it normally does. I actually felt like, even though I got a little sticky right there in the middle, I felt like that I could go up to 380 pounds, which is awesome, because the max I've ever lifted on that is 400 pounds with the wide hands squat. So this is a really good starting place for me. And I feel like that I'm going to be able to progress slowly as I add this back into my routine. So the safety squat bar is actually easier on your shoulders for two reasons. You could put the handles attached to it in the front, which would make the squat a lot easier and keep your hands out in front, which puts your shoulders in a better position. Or if you want to challenge yourself and make the lift even harder and you want it to carry over into strongman like I do, then you put your hands out wide like that. Both ways are very good for your shoulders and will actually give your shoulders a break if you're back squatting a lot, or if you just can't get under a normal barbell. That safety squat bar is definitely a lifesaver. But now I do understand that if you're trying to think about purchasing one, maybe thinking, well, what else can I use it for? Because I don't want to just use it for squatting. With a barbell, you can use it for a variety of different lifts. And believe it or not, you can use the safety squat bar for the exact same reason, and maybe not in the same manner as like deadlifting or bench pressing, but there's so many ways to use this bar. So let me show you another way that I like to use the safety squat bar with the variation giant set, starting right now. And the variation giant set is going to include these SSB front carry walks. And I really love doing this because you're able to overload the movement, because you could do this with a barbell, but it sits so uncomfortably on your biceps. And oftentimes that's the limiting factor, is how much pain is sitting on your biceps. The pads on there make it so it's nice and natural to grab it. It's softer. And so now you can overload it with a lot more weight. And I'm backing up like this because it's a lot easier to get out of the rack when it's time to start over again. And in between, off camera, I'm sorry I couldn't get it in the shot, but I was doing that stone over the shoulder still, the light one, and these block jumps, just to keep it in the same format as the strength giant set. And doing a carry like this with this type of bar really carries over into natural life strength. You might need to move somebody or pick somebody up and carry them, and this just overloads that movement so that you are able to get that strength that's needed for functional fitness. And it also carries over into stones, as I'll show you later. So everything about this is involved about getting better as a strongman athlete like myself, but even just in functional life, you can use that SSB bar not just for squatting, but also for carries, which is just perfect for everyday life. This is my top set for the day, which is going to be 330 pounds. And the thing about it is that thing sits right on your abdomen and it cuts all the air off. So really you're kind of fighting gravity, but you're also fighting that urge to like let it go so that you can breathe. And turning it around like this is what a lot of strongman competitions have. But it's also really good because it makes the movement that much harder, because it's just time under tension and you're not moving in a straight line. And that rope there tried to sabotage me. That made it a lot harder to try to put it back on the rack, especially when I was super fatigued at the very end. But nevertheless, I was able to get it. And you can see how much the safety squat bar carries over into other fitness. Now for the assistance giant set, all this is going to come together by doing the stone to shoulder movement. And you saw how the SSB bar and how the SSB carries look, right? Well, look at that. It's the same movement as a stone. Now, the only difference is the stone is a lot smaller in size and compact, and all that weight is centered. So it makes it a lot harder to get it up there than it would an implement that's made to be lifted. These stones are supposed to be decorative stones, and I got them from a rock quarry. And I just brought them out here and started flipping them up to my shoulder. and they're not meant to do that. Not like a round stone. Round stones are a lot easier. This is the second heaviest stone that I have because I currently haven't gotten that other stone up to my shoulder yet, the one that I got ever since I got my bicep surgery. But I did a lot of work today, and to be able to get this to my shoulder at the very end of all of that work would be very beneficial to me. And as you can see, I was able to do it. So that just means my training is going in the right direction. Now, as I was going up in weight on the stone, since it's in giant set format, I was actually doing these band inner thigh pulls where I attach that band to my foot and then it gets easier as it pops out. And then I would pull it in and then step down to try to work that inner thigh that I've been struggling with lately. And then I would do some hip kickouts because, like I've been saying in my last videos, I've really been having some trouble with some lateral hip impingement. So this movement and the other movement really helps get that hip strength up there. And then I was finishing off my biceps for the accessory giant set by doing 3 rounds, by doing the supination curls with that heavy kettlebell. And then I would move over to the hitchhikers to really focus on the antagonist portion of my shoulders. And then I would end with some hip bridges. And I started off doing the bridges like this, and then I would switch over into one-legged hip bridges just to try to really maximize that hip involvement, just to kind of work that lateral hip impingement out and my abs. And that was the entire workout for the day. So there you go. The safety squat bar, as demonstrated, is an excellent tool to use if you want to be able to avoid shoulder impingements when back squatting. I really appreciate everybody stopping by, and I'll see you next time. Thank you.